to welcome you out to another episode of the Lodestone Training and Consulting Podcast. I'm Jared Ross.
And I'm Chris Johnson.
Oh, did you see that camera switch?
It did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Technology.
Yeah. So this will be the first episode for the new season, season 8, which, all right. It's kind of wild to think that and how far we've come and we've progressed since we did that first episode. How many times was that? 3 times?
3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're doing this crazy stuff with these mics. But man, the feedback's been great. Interacting with you, talking with you is totally made it all worth it. And it's one of the reasons why we keep coming back.
It seems we can't do an event where, whether it's SHOT Show or it's a night vision shoot or something, where we have people that we have no idea who you are, but you're coming up to us, recognizing us.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to see you guys out in the wild, not just at classes. It is great seeing you at classes, but knowing how far this podcast is reaching.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Humbling.
Yes.
Pretty humbling. All right, so with this being the first one really for this year, 2024 is going to be another full year for us. We've got all kinds of different and unique things coming up.
Yeah.
One of which that we're going to be doing soon, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the ODA conference.
Yes.
And that is February 17th? 17th? Yeah, so that's a Saturday. We'll talk more about it later, but we already have, I think, 30-plus people signed up for that. So I know there's going to be a lot of people there. That's going to be a good time. But that's just one of a lot of new things and different things that we have coming up and that we have planned for this year. As we've been growing as a company, and as we've been selecting some different personnel, some different people to come in and help us, we've just been, our offerings, our training opportunities have really getting more and more diverse, where it's not just simply flat range work. We're branching out with long range, with the wilderness skills, with the urban setting now that we are going to be using PGA, or the Pennsylvania Gunfighter Academy. Using that place is opening up all kinds of opportunities.
I had a team leader once that said, a good Green Beret is the Swiss Army knife. You could take someone's appendix out with it if you had to, but it's not its primary role, but it has a lot of different facets and functions. And I think that we really, from the beginning of Lodestone, where we had the land nav classes, we had the wilderness skills classes, we also had the shooting classes. We're just continuing down that same road of being that light fighter and being diverse, having all those different things that we can do and train people, good people, to have those skills. We can focus on just making someone safe with a firearm, but how is that growing a community? We want to do that. We want to grow that community.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to continue to grow and create new classes and have more offerings out there.
I'm really excited about this year. Stuff that I've been working on for some of it 2 years now is really coming together. Just prove some concepts of the GPS class.
Yeah.
And that's done. I have the initial draft of what the course is going to be about. Audrey's going to take a look at my grammar, and then I'll send it off to you guys. And, we'll polish that up, and we'll pick a date and get that class up there.
Yeah.
And that's the more that I have been messing around with land nav, I see there's a lot of myth that, I have a GPS. And that's just a tool. I have a compass. Doesn't mean that I know I can find my way if I'm lost. You have to know how to use those tools.
Yeah. That point was really emphasized last Tuesday when I did the practical EDC class. Kept trying to push home the point that, this is your weapon, your mind. That's I think everything else are tools. So as we were talking about EDC, there was some stuff that a lot of people go, yeah, I've got that. Okay, I've got the gun. I know how I like to carry my gun. I have a holster. But then some of the other things that we're bringing about that and talking about and just adding to capabilities. One of which that blew everybody away at that seminar is just talking about the shock.
The aftershock headphones.
Yeah. And those things, since they're bone induction, they're great. So they're not blocking any of your situational awareness. They're not plugging your ears, so you can still hear everything while you're listening to that.
Yep.
And then the ability of that then to hook it up to your phone, so now we can have a conversation, we can talk, and we're still able to see and hear everything that's going on around us.
Everyone in the family has those.
Yeah.
And we've been using them for a while now. We used them a lot when we were down in Texas. That was a form of communications, and it was great. Abby and I were setting up to do an event. We were able to walk into the store, not together, have our conversation. I was able to point things out. She was able to recognize those things. And no one knew that we were actually having that conversation across the store. You know, it's little things like that. Again, it's being a little bit of creative. They're just tools. Understanding the technology, understanding the tool, and how to implement it in your daily life.
Yeah. Cool. That's why we do what we do, and
Yep.
why we love it. Again, I'm glad you're watching this and listening to us, whether it's the audio or you're watching it on YouTube. That's great. But even this is no substitute for getting out and doing it.
You know, I've been told in classes, you guys give out so much information in the podcast. Well, the podcast is a supplement to the class.
Yeah.
Because we were finding ourselves in class having all this information we want to put out, and we're not able to hit the things that we need to hit in the class. And so if you enjoy the podcast, you're going to love the class.
Absolutely. Well, to re-emphasize, sorry, not to re-emphasize, but to reinforce that point. Sure, I talked about the aftershocks, and then I kicked out Abby out of the class. So she went to the office, shut the door. She called me on my phone, and then I took the aftershocks and put it around and let everyone actually listen to it. And everyone was skeptical. Okay, yeah, I understand as a fact that you said it worked, so it must work. Then when they put it on and they heard the clarity and they heard the volume, like all of them, like, oh, wow. You know, and eyes got big, and wow was the constant thing out of everyone's mouth. Again, that's just the difference between hearing it and
actually
doing it. Yeah. So yeah, we have all kinds of good stuff set up for this year. I know we're looking forward to SHOT Show, which is, as we record this, it's 2 weeks away.
2 weeks away, yeah.
And that is always a good time for us, especially since we're not the party hard, drink, crowd. We get to laugh at those people, but it's a good opportunity to see and to hang out with and talk to a lot of you that we wouldn't see otherwise. But then also, there's a lot of good people out there, a lot of good companies that we enjoy working with that we'll be able to get some face time. And then we'll be doing at least one, maybe two podcasts out there, and we'll be, as we're learning new things, new information, we'll be passing it on to you guys.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I've realized as a company, one of the things that I've seen second, third order effects of us being so diverse, and with us having all kinds of different classes and specialized classes, whether it's specializing in just working transitions between your rifle to your pistol, or vehicle stuff or stuff at night, whatever it might be, as classes get more specialized and as they get more advanced. One of the mistakes some people make is then they forget or they don't go back to the basics. So one of the things that I wanted to emphasize here with the first podcast of the year is the importance of the basics. And whether you've been a longtime student with us and you've done a lot of different courses with us, I encourage you, if you have the time, go back and take one of the basics classes, whether it's the pistol level 1 or the rifle level 1 class. Also, we have skills classes that are only 3 hours that, again, we'll focus on level 1 stuff. But it's important to get back to those basics. Or if you're just discovering us and you want to come out to a class, even if you have some level of training or some background or some experience, coming out to those level 1 classes, those are really important. With our background as both Green Berets who've seen combat, as well as some of our other cadre, we're not teaching nor are we training necessarily to like competition shooting or just recreational shooting. Everything that we're doing from the very beginning is preparing you and giving you the information that you need in case you are involved in a gunfight. Whether that fight comes to you, as could happen in our family, where my wife Abby had to use a shotgun to protect herself in and our kids when they were young, years ago, or something else, something in the line of duty. And that's one thing that this past year we've had more than one individual who is
Yes.
involved in a lethal engagement or whatever, gunfight, or whatever the depending on where they're at, their correct term might be. And we've had some very nice emails or some very nice conversations complimenting and thanking us. Nothing finer than somebody saying, "Thank you. What you taught me saved my life." So that's the whole push and whole point from the very beginning, from the very first round that you were going to shoot at a day one, level one, drill one of a pistol class or a rifle class. It is teaching you correct principles to prepare you for the real world in for a fight.
And it's not a, I hate to use the term, a feel good or fantasy thing. It is a strong dose of reality. Trust me, I've been watching a lot of Miami Vice lately. I love the 80s. Man.
Classic Miami Vice.
Classic Miami
Yeah.
Vice.
Yeah.
The 80s, great time. But there's some good gun handling. But there's some horrible gun handling.
Yeah.
And if that's what you have as a basis, if you think that is actually, all this high speed stuff, the people that are speeding up the cameras on YouTube and they're shooting 100 takes, but they're only presenting the one. If that's where you're learning your information, you're not exactly truly understanding the good fundamentals. It is about consistency. It's about being able to hit the target every time and know where those rounds are going to go. And in order to do that, you have to do the basics. We say it all the time. As a Green Beret, you have to do Cephalic every 3 years at a minimum. And fifth group, we had to do it once a year. Well, you had to do it before every deployment, so it was like once a year. There's a reason why we spend the entire first week of that, before any of the fast roping, before any of the taking down buildings, that we just work the fundamentals on a flat range. Just getting those basics down. And I remember, the very first Cephalic that I went to, it was one of the first courses that I got to go to my team went, and I was a super new guy. I was just quiet and eating everything up and paying attention. And one of the things I noticed were all the senior guys who are doing the exact same thing as me. Where I had my senior on my team, he had been in 18 Bravo for like 16, 17 years. And so he's, longer than I've been in the Army. I was in high school.
Yeah, he's been around a little bit.
Yeah. He is quietly and respectfully listening and doing every drill to try and improve those skills. And I'm sitting there thinking, I've gone to the range with this guy. This guy has an amazing shot. He's an amazing shot because he does the basics very, very well.
Yeah. And that is what we attempt to replicate, is to teach those correct principles and teach those basics. I was thinking my first Cephalic, again in fifth group, and I'm there all excited and everything, and who pops in? But Mike.
Yeah.
Mike Peden.
Oh, all right.
Is that the first time we had?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, he shows up, and he's the NCOIC there, and he very humble.
Yeah.
And really emphasized the point that pay attention, learn these basics, and keep coming back to them. So we'll go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our current culture where we've got Instagram and YouTube and all these things being shoved down our throats, there is this very noisy group out there that they're dazzling people with their BS because there is no brilliance to it. It's all about, look at me, shoot as fast as I can at this piece of steel, but there's no foundation to it. It's, I can do this one thing really, really well this one time, and people get caught up into that. People want to go fast. I want to drive as hard as I can. You have to learn how to drive the car first. I love off-road driving. It is a very enjoyable thing for me. The overlanding, I'm all about it, right? I have done some things to the Forerunner that I'm currently working to repair.
You just reminded me. So, I just got those tires replaced and some other stuff on my Tacoma. And Benji, he helped out since he's working at that place. He helped do all the work. So I just asked him, say, hey, you were underneath there. Was there anything like weird or different that, I should know about just for maintenance stuff that I haven't caught? He's like, well, you have that plate. There's a lot of dents. I'm like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah, they're not bad enough to cause any problems. But, it's because we're using that thing.
I didn't just go straight to Moab when I was 16. I learned to drive a car first. I learned to drive on the highway. I learned those basic fundamentals. I learned to have escape routes before I started trying to drive fast or trying to drive technically and drive off-road. And I will see it. It's not so much. I will say this. We do not have the repeat of this. Every now and again, maybe once or twice a year, we'll get a student that shows up to a class and they'll want to go to the exciting class. And they will think that they have good fundamentals. And they'll be disappointed. And they won't come back. And I'm okay with that because we were not an entertainment for them. I am not Mickey Mouse. I am not an entertainment company. I'm an instructor. I am not there to make people feel good. I'm there to make people good. It's not about feelings. It's about skill. And so when their feelings are hurt because they're not able to run as fast as they think they can, and they're not shooting as good as everyone else because they think that, well, I should be just fine. I played Call of Duty. Okay, I watched Chuck Norris jump through windows and do somersaults. My somersaults are still garbage to this day. I mean, I was talking to Audrey the other day. We need to get some mats so I can start practicing my rolls because, I don't even know how I'm supposed to go through the window.
Yeah. But
you got to work on the basics first. Got to work that tumbling first.
Another really big compliment that we've been paid, and that's a couple different organizations that they had one or two of their personnel come take a class. They told some of the friends and some of their partners or whatever, working with them. They came and took some classes, and then they adjusted and changed their entire shooting program as an organization, as an institution, based on the way that we taught and the drill progression that we taught. And one of them, again, just a few months ago, told me that their entire performance level as an organization, as an institution, has exponentially increased because they started doing things, our way. It was focused and with a focus on the fundamentals instead of, hey, we got some training, let's bust out the pro timer, and then just trying to beat a clock instead of actually how do we do these things? What is the correct way to get that gun, to grip it, to present it? What are the 8 principles of shooting? How do you mount that rifle?
Pro timer is a great stressor. And we will very periodically use a pro timer for a specific thing or for a task. But we have so many other stressors, and you guys bring so many other stressors in there. It's so important. Again, you have to be able to walk before you can run. And if the metric you're using is a pro timer, and that's the only metric you're using, you're going to start cheating.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail because you're trying to beat that clock. We have seen it before when we put people on the timer, and they become frustrated, and they're not learning the drills. It's not about that clock. When you want to use it as a stressor, absolutely, but it shouldn't be like that's not the metric for success.
Well, and that's why when we do our 6-day cephalic flat range, we don't break the pro timer out until the 6th day, till the last day when we do the critical task evaluations. Because we don't want people to even think about time. We want them to focus on doing it right. I would rather they do it correctly and do it slow, but do it correctly, 10, 20, 100 times. And then as they're learning it, and this is the proper way to do it, then speed is going to naturally come. It's going to naturally occur.
I'm reminded of being a private going out for the expert infantry badge. You have to don your pro mask, and you have to clear it, seal and clear your pro mask within 9 seconds. And it's in a little pouch on your side, and you practice and practice and practice and practice. And we are always on the stopwatch. And we're like getting in like 10 seconds, and you're not getting in time, and you're getting really frustrated. And one of the NCOs took the stopwatch away. And he said, just do it slowly. Just do it correctly. Open the bag, grab it, do everything that you need. Don't worry about the time. Do it correctly. Do a bunch of runs. And I don't even know how many we did. 50, 100. We just kept doing it. And then we got on the clock, and sure enough, we're doing like 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's because once you forget about that time and you focus on doing the fundamentals right, the time comes. Your body will become fast.
Yeah. So we know from firsthand experience, one, because that's how we were taught, and then two, we've taught, I've learned so much more sense in teaching, sense instruction than I ever did just being solely a student. But through trial and error, through watching and teaching, we've learned that the best progression really is to start with single shot, whether it's with rifle or pistol, and that's acquiring that sight picture, keeping that sight picture, applying pressure, let the firearm go off, drive that sights back to target, acquire that second sight picture, reset the trigger, and then go back to ready position and repeat, and just spend time on that. Then after that single shot, again, whether it's pistol or rifle, the next thing we want to focus on is control pairs. It's the same basic thing, but only instead of one shot and two sight pictures, now you have 2 shots and 3 sight pictures, and making sure that you're resetting that trigger. And you don't even need to worry about speed. It's doing it right, being consistent, learning how that firearm feels as you're presenting it and as it's going off, and then as you're resetting that trigger. And then the third thing after that is doing a rhythm drill and keeping a good, steady, consistent rhythm, no matter how fast or slow you're shooting. And again, same thing, 5-round string, 6 sight pictures, make sure you reset that trigger. And then one of the ways to enhance that, if you're starting to feel like, I've got this is, same, is then either start decreasing the size of the target or start getting more distance. And if it's a rifle, especially, the more distance you have, you need to know those holds.
Yep.
We want you to get hits. We want those rounds to go where you want them to go, so that you might need to adjust where you're putting those sights to get those hits where they need to be. And as simple as that was all of a minute explaining that. It's just so hard for people to grasp. And so many people get impatient and they're not willing to put the time in or to, go back to it. Like Chris said, you need to do cephalic, the real one, the month-long one or so, when you're in group, at least once every 3 years. Most teams, most guys, they do it as pre-mission training before they go out on a deployment. So like you said, maybe about once a year
or so.
And then after that, yeah, sure, do all kinds of advanced shooting, do all kinds of crazy stuff. You're encouraged to. You should push yourself, as long as you always come back and spend some time doing those fundamentals, doing those basics.
Well, right now with ammo prices and everything, what they are, I'm very cautious about my training. If I'm putting holes in paper or ringing steel, it's with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I find myself focusing more and more on those fundamentals in live fire, and the like bounding or moving in and around vehicles or barricade work. I'm doing all that dry. Because I can do that, at the house. I can do that, in and around things. Can utilize airsoft for those things. I'm saving my money for focusing on, yes, I'm getting that shot off cleanly. Yes, I'm handling the weapon correctly. My fundamentals, my ergonomics, they're all correct. I just put the new True North 808 on my roof. Really liking it. Did a lot of stuff dry with it. Have to go confirm live with it. Went out, shot it live. Really liked it. What did I do for confirmation? I single shot, controlled pair, rhythm drill. And that was, it let me know that the things I found out in my dry fire were correct. And I was able to do that in less than, 50 rounds. Which, 5.56 is not cheap. I mean, it's not that it's expensive, but I still don't want to throw it away,
So with with that said, we really encourage you, if you haven't come out to a class, select one of those. That's the place to start. Our classes are set up as a 3-day where you can choose to come to any 1 days or 2 days or all 3 days. On the website, it'll have the description, so it'll tell you what the specifics for each day are, because there's a different focus for each day, but it's all our basic one, our level 1, culminating with that 3rd day, working a lot with keeping the gun up and running, dealing with malfunctions and other, stoppages and other things. And you'll learn more about that firearm on that 3rd day than virtually any other class that we offer or that you could take.
This day and age, with all law enforcement wearing the body cams, it is like the golden age of armchair quarterbacks, right? There's so much footage out there. And I keep seeing all of these officer-involved shootings where they're having malfunctions.
Mm-hmm.
And they are literally in a life and death situation with their duty weapon having to fix that malfunction. Most of them, it's a pistol, it's tap, rack, bang. But, it's that you have to know how to do it. And you have to know how to do that under stress. And I've seen some really good weapons handling where they're under stress. They're either shot or getting shot at, and they're having a weapons malfunction. They're getting it fixed. They're getting back in the fight. And I have seen some where you're sitting there screaming at the phone like, "Come on, man, tap, rack, bang," and he's just looking at something it's just a stovepipe, man. Just fix it.
I had a conversation with Flynn,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about that specific thing. And I don't know. I've never been a peace officer. I've never done that. But it was my idea that if the department or the unit regularly trains, whether it's a SWAT team or whatever, and they're regularly training, the regular shooting, not that big of a deal. But what I suspect, it's the regular patrol officers who
have to qualify once a year.
Well, they qualify once a year, but then after they qualify, what do? They load up the gun and it's chambered. So it's got to be loaded when they're at work. Well, we don't want to have an unloaded gun when we're home and we're off duty. So then now you're talking weeks, months.
Never cycling the mags.
Never. So then now there could be all kinds of slime, dust, lint, debris, whatever in that thing, because, it's the same chambered pistol. Same chambered round for 7 months. And who knows what, and then they go to, and when they need it, and then, any number of things can cause that kind of malfunction. It makes a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know. I've never been in that world, just taught and trained a lot of those individuals.
We have seen it. We have seen people that carry and never clear the gun. There are some people that it's a fashion accessory.
Well,
we had the one guy that he had an AR. It was a SBR suppressed. He carried it everywhere he went. Looked like a complete idiot.
And that was his big look. I'm ready. I'm prepared for anything. So I'm going to come to a seminar. And
I have my racquetball bag. Come on, who carries a racquetball bag everywhere? There are other backpacks you can use. And he's at a seminar, and Jared's like, "Oh, let me take a look at that." And like any good 18 Bravo, or like anyone, you cleared or attempted to clear the rifle, and that round was so corroded that we had to.
Well, I dropped the mag.
Yeah, you dropped the mag.
And then I went to rack the slide, not the slide, but rack the bolt.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't. And I didn't try very hard, so I tried a little bit more and a little bit more. And once I got about 75% and the thing wouldn't slide, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with this. It's not mine. So I said, hey, you might want to try this. So then, if I recall correctly, that individual then tried 100%, and it wouldn't budge. So we finally had to kick the charging handle to force it open. And it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the worst. I've been to, the Middle East where, it was definitely one of the worst corroded rounds I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's, again, for that individual, it was a fashion accessory. It wasn't a life-saving, implement.
Yeah.
But we have to be aware. And that, talking about basic weapons maintenance, it is something that I see all the time at classes.
We went from both in the level 1 and in the level 2 rifle classes. We talk a little bit about zero. Of course, we spend more time in the level 1, and we take the time to 0, and that was it. And usually it's kind of rushed because, hey, we got all these things we want to accomplish.
Yeah, it's a confirmation.
Let's make sure you're there and move on. And then you're like, no, we're not doing good enough. So then you did a 3-hour skills 0.
Yep.
And that went over very well. And then, like, shoot, let's try a full day.
Yep.
And again, that went over very well, much to my surprise, and very happy about it. Not that I didn't think that the quality wouldn't be there. I just didn't think people would like want to spend all day with you doing that.
Yeah.
So my point of that is maybe we give that a try. Maybe we put out here's a 3-hour, this is how to clean, maintain, and spend some time with those finer points to maintain that weapon.
So if you're interested in a weapons maintenance class, please let Abby know.
Yes. Email us. Don't necessarily put the comments down below because I don't even know if we ever look at that, but go ahead and contact us.
People comment?
Apparently. You know what?
I do get some private messages every now and again.
Yeah.
Usually from my mother.
She's your biggest fan.
Yeah, no. Someone has to be.
Uh-huh.
You know, going back to the basics is always a good place. It's the beginning of the year. As you're planning out your year, yes, absolutely. You need to be progressing. You need to be doing more advanced stuff. But you also need to hit the basics.
Yeah.
And you need to look at what you are rusty on. I do land nav on my own just for fun at least once a quarter. One, I like to see the different seasons, you know. You need to be doing land nav. Shoot, move, and communicate. It's that simple. You need to be out there practicing that. And we have a lot of different land nav courses. We've got the seminar that we do here at the office. We've got a 2-day that's compass. We have a 2-day that's coming up that's going to be GPS. And we have now it's kind of the advanced, but it's definitely a place to test your skills on land nav. And that is the advanced land nav where you go out and you really get to test your skill.
It's 5,000 plus acres of land that, you're not moving just 300 meters to the next point. You're talking kilometers.
Yeah, you're doing between 4 and 5 kilometers, and there's 4 points, and you're doing, as the crow flies, only 15K. But I don't know if you got wings.
And it's a good place. Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were a point sitter last year when we did that.
I was.
And what was at your point when you showed up?
Well, between me and my point was a bear.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So it's a fun time for all.
Jared just likes to bring that up because he carries a 10 mil and he wants to remind all of us that we should have a 10 mil.
Awesome. Well, another thing, and we'd mentioned it at the beginning, but another really important event that we have coming up where Chris and I are going to be, we're going to be doing the bulk of the work and the bulk of the lecture.
Presentation.
Yeah, presentation. That's a better word for it. And that is Prepare Like an ODA. So we did a podcast, going on 2 years ago, where that was the title, Prepare Like an ODA. And we were just talking basic principles that, being a lone wolf, you think that, hard times are coming and you're going to, get your bug out bag and you're going to go out by yourself and you're going to survive in the woods and that's the way to do it. That's just, that's fantasy. So we talked about correct principles. We talked about how to work as an organization, how an ODA actually functions to solve problems, how the ability to, everyone can work as a committee, but then when it comes time to specialization or times when action is required, how there's a definite chain of command. And then we talked about how these principles then can apply to you and your life and your family and your mutual support group, or how to build that community and how to set things up. So the conversation really hasn't stopped since we did that podcast.
And this is going to be more of a formalized event, and where that podcast is an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. This is going to be an all-day event. It's going to be audience participation. So we have information we're going to present with the intent of having that conversation, that two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And one of the best things about an event like this, when we talk about it, plan like an ODA, is you have to have that network. You have to have those people. Where do you find those people at events like this?
Yeah.
This is going to be, you're going to be there with people like you.
It's one of the reasons why we planned it to be an all-day event. It's going to be in Harrisburg at a Marriott affiliate. I don't know, on our website, I'll tell you exactly where it's going to be at.
Were you ever able to call
Yes,
them?
yeah,
Okay.
finally.
Did you find someone that had a Samsung?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the iPhones were not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's now the running joke in the household. Yeah, I mean, who needs to talk to Marriott? I mean,
Right. So it's designed to have like 50-minute blocks with breaks. There's going to be a full hour for you to grab lunch, but we have all those breaks and everything in there so you can talk, so you can meet new people, so you can catch up with old friends and just meet like-minded people as we have these conversations, as we have these discussions, and as we share our knowledge and our experience. Because, man, times have been weird these past few years, and 2024, it's just going to be weirder. There is so much going on in the world, so much going on here in our country that are all firsts that, who knows how things are going to turn out. So as we keep pushing, the light fighter idea or the light fighter concept of you're the asset, be the asset, not part of the problem, something like this is going to help you to be a better asset and be more well-rounded.
and I will say that events like this are so nice because we have the ability of being around like-minded people. When I know about me. I live in this world. I'm with you guys all the time. So I don't associate with the others. You guys associate with the others. I see them when I go to Audrey's work, and people are so willing to surrender for falseness, and man, that can be fatiguing.
Yeah.
That I don't know how. I mean, I know that people do it. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to have that conversation with my peers about the importance of not surrendering, not giving up your guns, not giving up the good fundamentals.
It's that example out of the Bible.
Not giving up the Bible.
Oh yeah, but that example of don't sell your birthright for a mess of pottage. Don't sell out your liberty or your freedom for momentarily pleasure or momentary a meal in that case, as that story goes. No, life is worth it, man. Your freedom, your liberty is worth it. I was just thinking about the world my children are growing up in and how it is so different, so vastly different than the world that I grew up in, and how much more freedom I had, where I had the freedom to jump on a bike when I was 14 years old and bike miles away and go into a town and go to a convenience store and go do things. And, it was okay. And in this day and age, we're really hard pressed to have our children experience that kind of freedom, that kind of liberty. So if you grow up that way and you've never really experienced freedom, it's so much easier for you to be complacent, to comply, to go, oh no, that's okay. I'll give that up. That's all right. And just to get along. And that's not living.
The thing that I like to remind people of is, okay, you right now may say, you know what, I'll give this up because I get this thing right now. And I feel that thing's very important. Don't forget about the second and third order effects of that. Right now, we all have to pay income tax, right? Now, was that originally a thing? No. Our grandparents or great-grandparents, some of you guys are young enough, were like, oh, we need to fund this war, this conflict, so we'll go ahead and it's important now, but they're going to turn it off. They'll stop doing this income tax. Still waiting on that,
Yeah. Social Security is another good example.
There is, you may feel that you have a gain right now. And again, we're not sharing this for you guys. You guys aren't the people, but you're, like I said, I don't know how you do it, how you deal with the people that are. They may think that, oh, well, if we give up guns, then we don't have to ever hear about a school shooting again. Okay. Yeah. There's still violence.
Mm-hmm.
There's still violence out there. They don't realize that, and they don't realize that it may not happen to them. It may not happen to their children, but their grandchildren are going to have to deal with it. It's going to happen. The check is going to come.
Yeah, it is.
The bill
Bill's going to come. Yeah, it's going to be due.
And I'm of the opinion of, I don't want my children to pay anything. That's what I'm here for. Why did I deploy to the Middle East? And why would I go again? So my children don't have to. I'd much rather fight over there than here.
Absolutely.
Because then my family isn't affected.
That is absolutely true.
However, I was having this conversation earlier because I am a bit of a history buff, and I was trying to explain different things of World War I and World War II. And there is something that I am envious, and I've said this before, of the,
all the combat jobs the Rhodesians got?
Well, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, I am very jealous of that. It's the fact that World War II, World War I, your enemy wore a uniform. And never in my lifetime have I fought an enemy that wore a uniform, nor do I necessarily think that I will.
Yeah.
I think when things happen, if they do, it's not like everyone, they're going to be coming in here wearing UN hats. I don't think that's going to be the case.
If they do, it's going to be real short-lived.
Yeah. But, they'll
learn their lesson.
That's a thing, a thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, be careful what you're willing to, and have these conversations with people. Don't let them give things up that are going to affect their children. That momentary, sense of security. Those that give up freedom for security have neither. It was true 200 years ago. It's true today. Well,
building off of that, we're really living in a fantasy world, a unique time. Prior to World War II, if you want to go back even further, sure, maybe prior to World War I, violence was the normal thing. People experienced it, whether it's where are we getting our food, to just the need to protect yourself and understanding that. But we have lived in such a bubble since World War II that now we've had a couple generations where
all they've known is peace.
Yes, all they've known is peace. And they've gotten, they've given up their freedom. They've given up their liberty by outsourcing their violence to somebody else. Well, I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to call the police and so it's gotten to the point where so many people who have never experienced violence, now they're creating violence. To me, what is violence? Well, it's some kind of a physical assault. That's violence. But now you look at somebody cross-eyed, or you mistakenly refer to them as their birth at gender. Hey guy, or you're a man. Oh, how dare you? You've now committed violence against me because I identify as a woman. And so they're creating this stuff because they've never really experienced a real assault, a real violence. And I know when I was growing up, the sticks and stones may break my bones, but names, that's completely,
words will never hurt me.
Yeah, that's completely flipped. And that's crazy. So the point of all that is we're living in this bubble. People are not living in reality. And this is an enigma in all of human history, where violence has always been real. Violence has always been there. And at some point, and maybe that point is coming soon, that bubble is going to burst. It's going to pop. And then it's going to be back to the real world, not this fantasy where if we just give up and sing kumbaya, then everything's going to be okay.
Well, I share it all the time. You have to read, you have to study, you have to look at what has happened in the world in our lifetime. Bosnia, okay, the collapse of Yugoslavia. And you can sit there and be like, well, there was a manufactured state and it was a communist state and all these things, and that was a cause, and they forced the ethnic peoples to get together. For whatever reason, they had a time of peace. They had a time that things were going really well, and there's a reason why there were a lot of people that wanted to go back to the communist situation, because they had that time of peace. They were willing to give up all those things. But then they had that collapse, that bubble burst, and there was ethnic cleansing. I mean, on a scale that happened in the 20th century, that's something that it happened in my lifetime. I I was aware of that. I was, 15, 16 years old. I was reading about it, the little bits and pieces I could. And I really encourage you guys, find information about that. I joked about getting the text from my mother. I may get this one. Not too long ago, my mother sent me a text saying, what book on Rhodesia should I read?
Oh, cool.
And I was super excited because, here she is. She's a 70-something-year-old woman. She lives in California, behind enemy lines. And she is still wanting to expand her knowledge base and understand things that have happened that, happened in her lifetime that went on, and how those same markers are going on right now. Talk about it in the Intel class. The same communist techniques that were used in the Congo, the same Chinese communist techniques that were used in the Congo.
They're being used now.
They're being used now.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that, if you haven't read about that, if you can't see and compare that, you're going to be caught off guard. It's like you say all the time, Jared. If you don't know basic math, and I tell you 2 and 2 is 5, you don't know any different. So you can fall for anything.
Yeah, you really can. That's one of the reasons why, I have always pushed and encouraged people to read the Constitution, to understand the Declaration of Independence. What do those documents mean? Those core principles of freedom and liberty that are in those documents. Those are eternal principles. Those are things we need to understand. And the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, you can be virtually anywhere on the political spectrum, except for the very extremes, and you can agree on those things. Sure, we might disagree on some smaller stuff, but those basic, principles of the Bill of Rights, those are things that we need to understand and that we need to rally behind. Those are correct principles. And once we start varying from those things, then that's when we start to get all this, chaos and all. I mean, no, I don't want to say that. But that is where a lot of the problems that have arisen as we've ignored the Constitution, as we've ignored the Bill of Rights, as we've ignored the principles that are found in the Declaration of Independence. So then our nation, we start to fall apart.
It goes back to the fact sometimes it's because it's ignored. Sometimes it's because I feel that is intentionally not taught.
Yes.
And so
well, what are those? The first 10 amendments. What is that? Those are restrictions on government.
Yes.
So we're not really getting many laws or anything that are net restrictions on government. It's all restrictions on us. It's all, well, we need to take away your liberty. We need to take away your freedom. We need to just chip, and take that away for your own good, for your safety, for your security.
I remember having a conversation about the Second Amendment with a fellow Green Beret, someone who should be better than this. And man, I hope you're listening to this podcast and you know who you are. And I was saying how I should be able to walk into Home Depot and purchase a Mag 58 because I want a Mag 58. Mm-hmm. And I should be able to take that to my local range and slap a belt in that, left or right side because it's a Mag 58, and shoot 200 rounds and clean it and go home and put it in my safe and do it again the next time I want. And his response, oh, you can't do that because then the gang members would have Mag 58s.
And that is part of the inherent problem, is that a lot of people might talk that they want freedom and don't encroach on my rights, but they're really not willing to shoulder the responsibility. Yes. They want someone else to deal with that responsibility. They want that safety. They want that security, that everything's going to be okay.
My answer is, if you utilize a tool in the act of a crime, you should be held accountable to it. The problem is it's not a tool issue. It's an accountability issue.
Yeah.
If you kill 100 people, you should be held accountable for that, and it should be very public. I've made the joke a few times that the school shooters, these guys that they want the recognition. The anniversary of that, they're hauled out and They're put in some sort of, electric cage for however many minutes that, you had 11? Okay, 11 minutes in the cage, and it's televised. You want that popularity? Here you go. Ride the lightning, buddy. Mm-hmm. Just enough that it doesn't cause heart damage. Again, because, I don't want to get into the conversation. I know some people might get offended about, and it's not that I necessarily care about people's getting offended. You can be offended. I respect your ability to get offended. So where you stand on the death penalty, that's one thing or another.
No, but the point that you're saying
point
is
I'm making,
there needs to be responsibility.
Yes, and
they need to be held account for those things.
The problem with the death penalty is it's too clean. When was the last time you saw someone executed? Do we even really know that there's a death penalty? When you hung people in the street, I don't want to see someone hung in the street. I've lived in Saudi Arabia. I have been to Chop Chop Square. I think it's barbaric. But you know what? People don't steal in Saudi Arabia. So there's consequences. When the consequences fit the crimes, and it isn't you're being sent to some sort of juvenile institution where it's just a gladiator academy and you're being trained further and further, and it's a badge of honor going and serving a nickel or a dime. Mm-hmm. When it's actual, this sucks, and man, I need to do everything I can not to ever do that again. That is when change happens. Dark there.
Yeah, we'll see what the YouTube has to say about that. I'm sure something's coming at some point. It's inevitable, but oh well. Not that we're looking to get in trouble there, but
I am Dark Chris. And now with the YouTube, people are like, but he's not black.
Dark? What do you mean? That looks
the silver.
Looks a little silver.
I should
there.
be Silver Chris, like the Silverhawks.
The Silverback. Silverhawks. That went over like 85% of the people who are watching.
Oh, I know, but there are some people that are like, oh, Silverhawks. I know the Silverhawks.
So I guess that point there is, well, not the point, but one of the things that I do want to emphasize, and that's you have what you have, value that liberty. Think twice before you want to willingly give something up. Think about what are the long-term effects of complying there or giving in here, giving up that freedom for that momentary pleasure. Don't sell your birthright for that mess of pottage. It's sacred. Hold on to that birthright as
it affects your posterity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm always reminded of. You may get away with it in your lifetime. It may not be a problem for you, but it'll be a problem for someone down the road.
But we're dealing with taxes because the failure of
our ancestors.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right. What time do we have? About time to wrap this thing up. Huh? Before we go, just wanted to inform you of some of the classes we have coming up with some of the dates. I know we spent the first, third of this episode of the podcast talking about the level 1 classes. So our level 1 classes that are coming up, we have Pistol 1, March 21st through the 23rd, and that is out on the western part of the state of Pennsylvania at Longshot. And then August 23rd, 24th, again, it's Pistol 1, and that's going to be over on the eastern side in Lebanon County at LCPCPC. And then for Rifle 1, that's April 18th through the 20th, and that's also out at Longshot. And then it's September 12th through the 14th at LCPCPC. So we purposely have the class held twice, and then on both sides of the state to try to accommodate as many people as we can.
Yeah, we keep getting people out there at the western side of the state saying, we need to have more classes out here. There you go.
Yeah.
Sign up for them.
Here's your chance. Cool. And those are all Thursday through Saturday. And again, you don't have to take all 3 days. You can pick and choose. Whatever makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, we got a student, you know who you are, comes to every malfunctions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't get enough. Also,
he doesn't disappoint on that one.
He's a disappointment everywhere else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he knows.
Well, this podcast is solely about him. We also have May 15th. It's a rifle home defense workshop. So that's going to be talking basic principles. Excuse me. That's going to be talking basic principles of how to clear rooms, how to do some personalized single man CQB. And basically with that, we take principles that we know and understand, but then we're applying those principles with specific techniques that make sense for you, the civilian, in case of a home invasion. It's not teaching you 4-man, CQB to take down buildings. Then we also have its counterpart, June 12th, and that's another 1-day home defense workshop, and that's based around the pistol. And then we do have a 3-day CQB, that's an open enrollment course. That's July 11th through the 13th. So we have those, and then those basic, our level 1 rifle or level 1 pistol classes that are coming up, as well as all kinds of other stuff. But we encourage you to go out there, and we look forward to seeing you at the range. We love teaching and empowering and helping you to be better prepared if and when that moment arises in your life.
That's right.
Cool. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I think I've said enough to get myself in trouble. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll know if, depending on how John edits this.
He does a good job of making me not look too crazy.
Yes, he does. He says it's pretty hard work, though. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you again next time.